hijacking the attention and the money of our country to his ends. And that could be any prime minister, by the way. It happens to have been Benjamin Netanyahu. But conceptually, that's outrageous. And people were justly upset about it. Absolutely, they were upset about it. So where will this go? Well, of course, the people who think the U.S. government should act always and everywhere on behalf of its own citizens, the America First people, those people are going to win the debate. In fact, there's never actually been a real debate. But when people's mind fog clears and they can think about what just happened, they'll understand that this was never about the Jews or anti-Semitism, much less Hitler, who's been dead for 80 years as of April. No, it was about, should the United States act in its own interests, or should it subvert its own interests on behalf of a foreign power with a very effective lobby in Washington? That's exactly what the debate is. And the answer is, of course, no. So the America First people, or the people who just think the government should serve its own citizens, which, let me remind you, is the only legitimate rationale for representative government. In other words, if the government is not representing its own citizens, if it doesn't care about its own citizens, it's not only off track, it's illegitimate. It has no basis to govern because it's a representative democracy. So you are morally bound, you're legally bound to represent your own people. That's the only purpose of having a government in our country, is to represent our people. And if you're not doing that, you're not legitimate. So they will win. And in a year or two, we're going to look back on what we've been watching for the last month or last 8 months, and we're going to realize this is exactly like BLM or Me Too. You know, at the core, there may have been a point, but basically it's buffoonery. It is an effort to divert your attention from the real crisis. And we're going to wonder, wait a second, since when did the institutional right, conservatives, people who run the think tanks and the dumb little magazines nobody reads, and the people who blow Viet on Fox News, since when did those people become completely committed to identity politics and censorship? Because they are committed to identity politics. That's what this is. It's identity politics. Of course. It's group over nation. Of course. It's another country above our country, a tiny country, an irrelevant country over our country. And people are going to look at that and say, wait a second, we thought, in fact, we voted for you because we thought that the two things we could be assured you believed were you were against identity politics. You lectured us about woke for like 10 years. You're against woke because you're against identity politics. You're against tribalism. And here you are not only embracing it, but using it as a cudgel to hit people in the face. And maybe even more shocking, we knew for a fact you were against censorship. I mean, isn't that the whole point of the Trump election? We're against censorship. You can't censor people in a free society. You can't have censorship in a democracy. How will you have the information required to vote? Censorship is totally incompatible with democratic government, period.